There have been several notable events recently. Let's start with Retaliation for the Northern Streams, or about how Putin celebrated his birthday. A little less than a year ago, Vladimir Putin proposed cooperation between Russia, Uzbekistan, and Kazakhstan in the gas sector. What later came to be known as the rather pretentious Triple Gas Alliance. Despite a series of formal denials from Tashkent and Astana that they are not going to jeopardize their independence, this project did not fall into a long box. Back in Soviet times, the Central Asia Center gas pipeline system was laid through the territory of Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, which was originally intended to supply blue fuel from Turkmenistan to Russia. The multi-line gas pipeline system has an annual throughput capacity of about 80 billion cubic meters. The whole system is controlled by Gazprom. There is also the Bukhara-Ural gas pipeline between Uzbekistan and Russia, which in Soviet times supplied gas to the Urals industry. The 4,500-kilometer string runs through the territory of Kazakhstan. All of this rich heritage has been virtually unused. For a long time Gazprom did not buy gas from Ashgabat at all, and in principle there were only small volumes, so it was a logical decision to change the direction of supply. This was the goal of the conditional first stage of gas cooperation between Moscow, Astana and Tashkent. And this task, to re-equip the long unused GTS facilities, was realized in the shortest possible time. Recall, the idea was first announced in December 2020. And the other day, less than a year later, the official launch of gas supplies to Uzbekistan by transit through the territory of Kazakhstan has already taken place. During this time, Russia modernized the Alexandrovgai gas metering station in the Saratov region. In Kazakhstan, pipes were repaired and pumping capacity was released. A gas metering station and a new section of the Bukhara-Ural pipeline were built in Uzbekistan. As for specific volumes, a 2-year contract for the supply of 2,800,000,000 cubic meters of gas to Uzbekistan has been signed so far. Of course, this is just the first stage. The key task of rebuilding and turning around the mighty GTS Central Asia Center with a combined capacity like 1.5 Nord Streams or 3 Yamal Europe or 5 Turkish Streams is to get the pipelines to the external market of South Asia, particularly India and Pakistan. Nobody would do all this colossal mass of work for the sake of 2,800,000,000 Uzbek cubic meters. And then we are already talking about the construction of the TAPI Turkmenistan-Afghanistan-Pakistan-India highway. It has a capacity of 33 billion cubic meters. If the gas union joins TAPI, the prospects could be enormous. The market for Russian gas is opening up not only in Afghanistan itself, with its 40 million population and huge consumption growth potential, but also in bottomless Pakistan and India. However, there are still some complications here. In the case of TAPI, it is of course a question of Afghanistan. Although it should be said that since the Americans fled, Kabul has been very active in building relations with Moscow. Plus, the Taliban, still banned in Russia, who are interested in supplying energy resources, assured that they would guarantee the safety of the project's implementation. At this point I'd like to say that geopolitical turbulence is with us for the long haul. And as practice has shown, it remains to be seen which region is more dangerous from the point of view of investments. The blatant example of the terrorist attack on the Northern Streams is a clear demonstration that it is worth revisiting the myth of the reliable West. They are great at myth-making, brainwashing the whole world. Although in fact the unreliability of the same South Asia is largely the result of US intervention. However, if we talk about the difficulties with Afghanistan, a kind of competitor to TAPI is another project in which Russia also has a direct interest, the Pakistani Stream. It involves supplying Russian LNG to Pakistan and distributing it through a purpose-built pipeline with a capacity of 12,400,000,000 cubic meters per year. Plus it implies Russia's participation as the general contractor for the construction of the pipeline itself, which means both owning a share of the project and further participation in its management. In general, the plans are grandiose, but the eyes are afraid, but hands do. And the other day, the first extremely important step towards South Asian markets was taken, and Russia demonstrated that real deeds are not rusty behind words. In the shortest possible time, without unnecessary EU-style PR, colossal work was done and the gas pipeline was launched. Also, another very important piece of news. The West has recognized the billions lost and that offshoring is returning to Russia. The process of mass de-offshorization of the Russian economy is also confirmed in the West. Thus, the United States has estimated that over the past year and a half, assets totaling $50 billion have been returned to Russia. Note that this is specifically a paper estimate that changes over time. In our case, it is mostly upwards, because domestic residence removes sanctions risks, including dividends, and therefore increases the level of capitalization of companies. As an example, let us take MMK, the largest producer of metallurgical products. At the beginning of the year it became known that the main shareholder Viktor Rashnikov transferred MMK's parent company from Cyprus to the city of Magnitogorsk. It should be noted that Rashnikov decided to register the company in the Chelyabinsk region, and not in a Russian offshore in Kaliningrad or Vladivostok, which have tax benefits. Thanks to this event, as well as due to the recovery of indicators, the company's capitalization increased from 368 billion rubles at the end of 2022 to 574 billion at the moment, plus 56%. Or take the social network V-Kontakta, which is currently undergoing a series of missilizations from Cyprus to Kaliningrad. At the end of 2022, capitalization was 98 billion rubles, now 144 billion rubles plus 46%. Thus, even the West has already confirmed the process of real differentiation of the Russian economy. In this edition of Bloomberg, the Kremlin is pressuring the richest Russians to repatriate their assets from countries it calls unfriendly. Double tax treaties have been suspended, making it impractical to maintain registration in places like Europe. Russia makes it difficult for companies to pay dividends or sell assets to organizations registered in such jurisdictions. At the same time, the legal issues of blocking foreign assets are also being addressed. In the event that an offshore regulator does not grant permission to re-register assets in Russia, our regulatory authorities will not take this paper into account. Bloomberg also writes that in August Putin instructed the government to create a mechanism that would allow Russia to regain control over Russian companies where such control is exercised through foreign organizations and was lost as a result of sanctions. If we talk about figures, so far this year alone, 115 large companies have already moved to special administrative districts in Kaliningrad and Vladivostok. Now there are already 254 units. Moreover, as information from the Western media also shows, these are the largest business companies with assets worth tens and hundreds of billions of rubles. Not everyone has heeded Putin's calls to bring business back to Russia, and there are evaders who still hope to keep their assets abroad. For example, Melnichenko still keeps a Swiss jurisdiction company, Evrahim. However, the Prosecutor General's office is already working on Melnichenko. I hope the case will reach all those who even now prefer to avoid bringing business back to Russia. At any rate, the absolutely correct actions of the state give reason to hope so. Well, our Russian chemical industry has quietly replaced the production of ammonium nitrate after the withdrawal of foreign suppliers. More recently, Togliatti Kuibyshev Azot modestly announced the launch of ammonium nitrate production, in which it invested 5 billion rubles. At the same time, the event itself is unique in many ways, and the news is certainly not ordinary. Firstly, the ammonium nitrate pelletizing and expelling unit at Kuibyshev Azot is the most powerful in the country and is capable of producing up to 2,300 tons of product per day. For agriculture in the Volga Federal District and the country as a whole, the news means that there will be no shortage of mineral fertilizers, the demand for which in the country has doubled over the past 5 years. As Alexander Gerasimenko, director of Kuibyshev Azot PJSC, comments, we plan to increase consumption 2 times more, because we are talking about ensuring food security of the country, for which we invest in our production. Second, there are tangible environmental benefits from the project. With the startup of the new plant, the 2 granite towers, which had been in operation for almost 60 years, went into standby. Air emissions will be reduced by 200 tons per year. The company received the right to label its products with the trademark of the Ministry of Agriculture of Russia, Green Benchmark. This right is given to the use of technologies that have minimal impact on nature. And the third undeniable advantage of the new production facility is that 90% of the equipment was installed by domestic suppliers using Russian technologies. The State Institute of Nitrogen Industry is the licensor. 5 billion rubles were invested in the project. Domestic suppliers include Zarya Chemical Equipment Plant from Dzerzhinsk, Penza Power Engineering Plant, Volgodonsk Universal Stroymarsh, JSC Gidrogas from Voronezh and NPOYUMAZ from Moscow. By the way, for the last 5 years this is already the 7th high-tech production only at the Togliatti enterprise. Now for the ammonium nitrate. It is the most popular fertilizer among agrarians. Ammonium nitrate is beloved for its low cost and for being effective in correcting nitrogen deficiencies. Its share among fertilizers for the agro-industrial sector is more than 43%. Apply ammonium nitrate to all industrial crops. Nitrogen is the main building material for plants, and without the help of ammonium nitrate, the crop will not develop well. It is a fertilizer that gives the plant a quick start. The country's agro-industrial complex strives for technological sovereignty, and in a number of categories Russia has achieved a certain independence, and even in the pre-sanctions period. The success of import substitution in the chemical industry in the production of mineral fertilizers is evident. Enterprises have doubled fertilizer shipments in the last 5 years. Foreign suppliers who have left Russia with a slammed door can only regret the missed opportunities. It was assumed that the Russian market would deflate, but no. Domestic developers have done a tremendous job and proved, In their country there are opportunities, money and bright minds.